Hey everyone, buckle up because today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty wild. We're going to be talking about the idea that our reality, like everything we experience, might actually be a simulation.
Yeah, it's a real head trip of a concept.
It is. And to make things even wilder, the source we're looking at today even lays out some ideas about how technology could advance to the point where it could create experiences that are basically indistinguishable from real life.
It's pretty mind-blowing. The idea of reality being a simulation has been around for a long time, like way back in philosophy and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But what's really interesting about this particular source is that it's looking at this idea from a more scientific angle. Like how could this actually be possible with technology?
That's what I'm really curious about. Like, how could you even begin to simulate something as complex as reality?
Right. Well, the key is understanding how our senses work.
Okay, so how does that tie into it?
Everything we experience, everything we see, hear, touch, taste, smell, it's all just electrical signals that our brains are interpreting.
Oh, I see.
So when you see a beautiful sunset, what's really happening is that light is hitting your eyes. And that gets converted into electrical signals that travel along your optic nerve to your brain.
Right, yeah. So it's kind of like our nervous system is like the wiring of a super complex computer.
Exactly. And our brains are like the CPU processing all those electrical signals and creating our experience of reality.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how could you ever replicate something that complex with technology? I mean, can we really build a system that could hack into those signals?
That's what's so fascinating about this source. They actually talk about a hypothetical device that could, in theory, hack our senses by generating those electrical signals externally. So instead of light hitting your eyes, for example, this device could directly stimulate your optic nerve or even the visual cortex in your brain, feeding you visual information directly.
Whoa, hold on. That's like straight out of the Matrix.
It is, right. It's the same basic idea, but what's really trippy is that this excerpt is suggesting that this kind of technology might not be as far-fetched as we think.
Okay, but wouldn't simulating consciousness be like a totally different ballgame than just stimulating senses?
Definitely. Philosophically speaking, creating artificial consciousness is a whole other can of worms.
Right.
But what this source focuses on is more the tangible aspect, like how we could replicate that sensory experience.
I see. Okay, so like back to that vision example. So I can be sitting here with my eyes closed, but this device could make me see like a tropical beach or something.
Exactly. The source even suggests that this could potentially apply to all of our senses, not just vision.
So in theory, you could have any experience you want, like on demand.
Right, like a gourmet meal or a skydiving adventure, all just by stimulating the right parts of your brain.
So if I'm craving pizza in this simulated world, there's like a hack for my taste buds.
Well, that gets into some tricky territory. The source mainly talks about vision because, it's the most studied sense and we have a pretty good understanding of the neural pathways involved. But trying to simulate something like smell or taste, which involve a lot of complex chemical interactions, would be a whole lot more challenging.
So like some senses are easier to hack than others.
Pretty much, yeah.
Makes you wonder if a full-on simulated reality would even feel like, I don't know, balanced or something.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. It definitely raises questions about the limits of what even super advanced technology could achieve.
And then on top of all that, we've got the whole philosophical side of this thing.
Yeah.
The source paints a pretty freaky picture of what could happen if people become addicted to these super realistic simulations. Like they could totally lose touch with whatever base reality actually is.
Yeah, it's like a cautionary tale, right?
Totally.
This idea that the illusion could become so powerful that it just completely overshadows reality itself. It kind of makes you think about how we use technology today and how much of our lives are already spent in front of screens in virtual worlds,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, are we already living in a kind of proto-simulation plugged into a less advanced version of this thing without even realizing it?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's something we all have to think about. And maybe, like the excerpt suggests, if the simulation is so good that we can't tell the difference, does it even matter if it's real or not?
Whoa. That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
So I guess the takeaway here is that this whole idea of simulated realities, it doesn't just make us think about the future technology, but it makes us question the very nature of our existence and what we even consider to be real.
Exactly. And if you're left with one thought after this deep dive, it should be this. If we can't tell the difference between a simulation and reality, Does the difference even matter?
Well, folks, it's time to unplug from this deep dive for now. But hey, maybe take a look around you, really experience your surroundings. Or, you know what, maybe just order that virtual pizza and ponder the nature of reality. It's your call.